Hey folks, back again to talk about this tool I've been working on called Prompt Caster. The tool, as envisioned, is a way to, through prompts only, create replicable characters across multiple images. I call them cast members. And we'll go through that. I'm going to get to the nuts and bolts a little bit to start off with so you understand what you're looking at. This brown section is for a cast member. The cast members, as I fill out a sheet for the cast member, much like creating a character in an RPG, you'll see that it starts populating this prompt. The prompt for advanced AIs, in this case, the best one is Sol 5.6 for ChatGPT, so we're going to use that one for our tests. But if there's a prompt, and if you give them a prompt and you give them a seed, it will determine how it rolls or how it varies individual prompt options based on the seed. So if you keep the same seed in the same prompt, you will get the same picture every time for the most part. Um, so, and as you know, as you see, if I clear this prompt, there's nothing in it right now, but if I clear this prompt, it generates a new seed. But if I say keep seed throughout editing, because every time I make a change, it can change this seed. So if I say keep seed, that will make sure that everything else in this prompt can change except for the seed, and we'll show you why that's handy. Um, so we'll go through and make a character real quick. And male, age 50, height, let's say 1.85 meters. Ethnicity, we'll say Hispanic. Actually, you know what? Let's just generate Gene. It's going to change the name. Well, no, because I can lock it. So if you have this all filled out and you like all of this, but you want some things to change, you can lock what you want. So like if you want to make, if you want to keep iterating on a male character, you can highlight, you can lock male, and then every time you hit random, it'll continually make a male. If you want him to be 50 years old, he'll continue to be 50 years old. If you want him to continue to be 1.85, you get the idea, right? So I'm going to lock all those, and I'm just going to hit random. Um, and if you don't have these boxes here checked, these boxes get into more fantastical beasts, and they change the options. Like if I turn beast on, if you look here at the heights, this 1.45 to 2.1 is the average range of a human size. So it's meant to create realistic looking people. But if I turn on beast, it changes this dramatically. Now it goes up to 50 meters, right? Or more if you want to make it more. Um, but without it on, it's going to create a regular gene, right? So let's do a random. And let's go down to, so we look here and here's all of his settings, right? Um, yeah, I don't care. This is all random. Clothing. Let's start with default clothing, just because I want to go through this. Um, the one thing about clothing to know is that everything essentially is in a cascade. So you pick the helmet. You can pick a headgear or helmet or wherever you want. Uh, but if once you start picking clothing, if clothing covers other clothing naturally, like if you take an outer layer, uh, let's see, over layer top. If you choose a ship suit or you choose a nurse's uniform or a mesh bodysuit or let's see, bodysuit full, right? Then what happens is the outer layer covers the inner layer. So once I chose that bodysuit, you'll notice that it says covered by, covered by, covered by. So I can't choose underneath clothes because what happens with AI is anything that you put in a prompt, it's going to have to show. So if you were to give a prompt of like Superman and you gave them the outer top layer of a suit and the bottom outer layer of suit pants, and then the under layer of a bodysuit and the under layer of an emblem on the bodysuit or whatever. Um, if those are both, if the under Superman suit and the Clark Kent suit are in the same prompt, it's going to try to draw both, which causes a lot of problems. So those are the kind of conflicts that I designed this tool to overcome. So it avoids those conflicts and makes sure that you don't have erroneous image creation going forward. Um, that doesn't affect your choices of headgear, and it doesn't affect your choices of footwear and gloves. I mean, if you want to, you can change it says covered by top, which means it won't show in the prompt. You can change that if you want. But you can practice, you can experiment with it and see what happens. But when you start putting the under layers in, you'll notice that it'll take top layers off to show under layers. But use it at your own free will. I'm simply trying to make the picture look as accurate to your imagination as possible. We can change gloves and footwear because those don't overwrite, and I don't have sock options. But we'll give him riding boots. We'll make them green. His bodysuit we'll make white and leather. Let's give him a cowboy hat. And we'll make it blue. We'll make that leather. Okay. Boots. Well, let's make his boots blue to match his hat. Blue. Material. Carbon fiber. Gloves. Winter gloves. Blue. Carbon fiber. Okay. Accessories. I'm not going to add any accessories right now. There's a bug with this right now that every time you make a selection of an accessory, it collapses the accessory. So that becomes kind of annoying. I got to fix that at some point. But in the meantime, well, I'll do it once. I'll give him aviator glasses just because. Now, clothing has multiple genres, and in this case, it's selecting all genres. So turning on a genre or turning off a genre, for that matter, will show more or less clothing options. So if you want to go pure fantasy, you can turn off everything but fantasy. If you want to go pure sci-fi, etc., etc., I have everything checked. So in this case, because the sci-fi is checked, it gives me robot options. So you can change body parts. So in this case, I'm going to say right arm is a robot, and we'll make it gold for no reason other than that it's gold. Now, you'll notice I talked about this before. Because I say his right arm is gold, normally, if I didn't have this turned on, and maybe we'll see this later, but if I didn't have this turned on, this bodysuit would give him a sleeve on his right arm, right? It would just make a normal sleeve. But because I've told it right arm gold robot, it will most likely, I can't guarantee it, but it will most likely take off that sleeve to show the gold arm. And it does that with everything. You could, if you were to assign these people underwear and a bodysuit, it would take off the bodysuit to show the underwear. Anyway, so he's holding. You can tell them to hold something, and I'll just give him an assault rifle in both hands. And let's make it a magical assault rifle etched with runes. All right. Now the scene. With the scene, I'm automatically, when you create a character, I already have it automatically filling out a generic scene, which you can then change. But as you change this scene, all this does is it populates the bottom, the staging portion. So for this case, there's a single person. There's a solo one-person scene. So it will only generate staging options for that one person. When I add people to the list, you'll notice that we come down here and suddenly you're going to see other staging options because now there's going to be multiple people who need to be given direction. Um, I'm going to just have him standing and laugh, mid laugh. Let's say mid laugh, just because I want to see the whole face, right? We'll talk photorealistic, though I find, at least with ChatGPT, when you say photorealistic, that's kind of the more fantastical and non-photorealistic your no less realistic your image gets, the less realistic it will display it. So I don't have much hope that this is going to look photorealistic, but that's more on ChatGPT. Let's do this uh, front approach. Contemporary. Let's put him in a bookstore. He's a superhero in a bookstore. Well, at least he's dressed like one. Anyway, so now we have the prompt, right? We have Gene. Gene is the way we want Gene to be. I can save Gene to cast, and it will save Gene to cast. Next, in a future, if I like the Gene that's going to be generated by ChatGPT, then in future scenes, I can just click add to scene, and this Gene will be added. Basically, what I mean is this Gene paragraph will be added to the prompt, which will add Gene to the picture. And then this Gene will be referenced in the scene. And it'll allow directional, so you can have Gene punching somebody, et cetera, et cetera. And it will direct the image generator to create an image where Gene is interacting with the other person in the way that you say. But right now, we're just going to do a picture of Gene just so I can show you something. So I'll copy the prompt. This is going to be Gene standing in a bookstore. ChatGPT is the best, but it's also not very fast. You'll get one picture, and it takes about 20 seconds or so, 30 seconds maybe. But what we're going to do, what this test is going to do is I'm going to, once Gene is created, we'll go back into the prompt caster and we're going to change his outfit. I'll just go ahead and randomly choose new clothes for Gene, keeping everything else the same, including the prompt, the prompt seed. And in theory, Gene should come out looking fairly similar to Gene in this image, just with different clothes, which is no small feat if you're hand jamming a prompt. He looks like a super villain. Anyway, hey, it gave him the right arm. I don't always get it. Doesn't always choose the right arm for me. But there's Gene, apparently taking over a bookstore somewhere. That's fabulous. So let's go ahead and redo Gene. Come back here. And let's go to his clothing. And let's give him. What do we want to do? Let's give him a fedora. Let's make it red. Yeah, he's a leather guy, so I'll let him keep his leather. Bodysuit. Let's change this to a. Sweater. And it's gonna be a white leather sweater, a white knit sweater. This uncovers his. Let's put a Gene cool guy logo on his sweater. The underlayer top is covered by the top. The overlayer bottom. Let's take. Cargo shorts. Cargo pants. Let's take cargo pants. Let's make them Chrome. Let's make him chrome and leather. He's definitely a fabulous supervillain. And let's see, everything else the same. He still has the auto rifle. He still has holding it in both hands. It's etched with runes. I didn't about check to see if it was etched with runes, but he still has the robotic right arm. Contemporary front approach, bookstore, mid laugh, photorealistic. Okay. And we kept the seed. Let's make sure that we're keeping the seed. The seed is 37501 and 37501. Okay, now this might not work. I'm going out on a limb here to just test things in front of you so you can see kind of what's going on during the development of this. But I'll copy this to prompt and we'll generate it again. Now, in theory, if this works, you'll get an image fairly similar to the one we just generated here, but Gene will be wearing different clothes. Fingers crossed. Basically, because his face should be the same and his body build should be the same. The framing should be the same. The setting should be the same. And just the clothes changed. I've done this test before with makeup and things like that, and it seems to work pretty well. This is the most I've ever changed on a person to see if the image stays the same. So we will see. But yep, there you go. Same pose, same gun, same arms, same boots, same gloves. The only things we changed were the sweater, which now has the Gene Cool Guy emblem on it that it just randomly shows. That's kind of funny. And his silver leather pants. Fantastic. So, using this tool, you can essentially generate the same picture and mess around with changing outfits, right? So let's get into the next part of this real quick. And we will add, let's go ahead and collapse Gene. Gene is saved. Well, I didn't save Gene. Let's call this Gene Cool Guy. Save him to cast too. So now if I want Gene with that particular outfit, I now have Gene Cool Guy outfit. All right, so let's keep Gene in the photo. Let's go ahead and add, and we'll go ahead and add Beast. Okay, so you can have Wild or Beast, which is a. I mean, it's not. It's a difference without a without a difference. But let's go ahead and do Beast, and we'll do random. Created Nina. Well, this will be interesting. I think this probably is one of the settings that is fundamentally broken. And it has to do mostly with trying to figure out how AI does this stuff. Because if you look here, Nina is a woman who's part raven, who is a third of a meter tall. Yeah. I'm not going to go into looking at this, but if you come down here, we're not going to do Worm's Eye. That's looking through a hole. We'll do close up. And we'll do walking and talking. Yeah, we'll do walking and talking. Let's change from a bookstore to an office. Stay within photorealistic. Nina looks pensive. Of course she does. She's a third of a meter tall. Staging. Now you see that there is staging for Nina and for Gene Cool Guy. And so we click the prompt. Go back here. Now this is a good test because one of the things I've been fighting with for a long time is size and how to properly tell AI to render size of characters. You can't just give them numbers, right? So I had to change the way that it will read the numbers. Like my tool will read the numbers and then translate that into verbiage that, in theory, AI can understand. For much larger characters, this tends to work pretty well. Although it's interesting because when I have very large characters, I had to automatically disable indoor settings because essentially, if the AI sees a 50-foot person in a office space where the ceilings are 8 feet, it will automatically forget how tall the person is and make them normal size again. So if you make somebody who's, I think, 12 feet tall, 12 meters tall, depending on the scene, it will gradually take scenes out of the options if their head's going to go through the roof. So if you put a 50-meter person into the picture, you're only going to get outdoor options. In this case, Gene is normal sized and the other person is tiny. So I've never done this before, so I'm interested to see how this goes. So this close-up framing, so this is kind of a portrait image, so we should get a close-up of Jean, and so we should be able to see Nina better because she's so small. If I did a wide angle, we would still get Nina, but if it did what it's supposed to do, Nina would be very small and probably hard to see. I have no idea what Nina looks like because I didn't expand that. That's half of the fun of random. Um, but it's a work in progress. Oh, there she is. She doesn't look a third of a meter tall, if you notice. It does appear to be broken. She's a zombie. Um, and you see here, Jean still looks the same. Jean's just not laughing anymore, right? So if I were to save Nina, uh, I don't think. I mean, I have to work on short people. The tiny people are not showing up right in this. It is showing her shorter, but it's not calculating her as properly tall. She should probably be up to mid thigh in the picture. But it could also be that this is a good example of why AI kind of messes up. When I told it to zoom in close, I bet you if I zoomed out, she would be. Let's try that. I think if I zoomed out, um, she would be proper size. Because I'll tell you what's happening here, or at least I'm going to guess what's happening here. So let's do wide action. Everything else the same. Copy image, regenerate. Because I think what's happening here is that this amount of Nina that is showing is actually roughly a third of a meter tall. It doesn't care that parts of her body are going off the screen. It's simply calculating her within the frame I gave it. So if I give it a full body, then it should calculate. It basically calculates based on uh, the reference person. So it'll pick a reference person and then make everybody else size to the reference person. So at a wide angle, when it has Jean's full body, she should actually, in theory, be closer to the right height. I didn't think about that when I was generating it, and I could be completely wrong. It's part of the troubleshooting process. But she's she looks like she's a zombie with devil wings. An interesting couple, for sure. But I do enjoy the fact that Jean has remained in multiple scenes fairly similar. Enough so that if you were reading a book with these images in it as the characters, you wouldn't know from page to page that he's changing because he's varying within a very small window. Um, yeah, she's the same height. She got a little bit shorter. Um, so yeah, small people, the like fantastically small people, are not being rendered properly right now. But if you're staying within a certain range, everybody seems to be about the same. And you notice because I kept the prompt the same, not only did Jean stay the same person, but so did Nina. And I did this without photo references. It's all prompt generated. Anyway, so that is Promptcaster. Um, One other thing I added is, let's say I click here and say wild beast and click total random. What this does is it will randomly select the number of subjects in the video or in the image, up to 4. So it does 1 to 4 people. It automatically pre-renders the scene. Um, and so all I got to do is say totally random and generate, and I have a completely random picture, and it's just fun. And if you see people, like, you generate the picture and you say, "Hey, he looks pretty cool. I like that." Come back here, figure out which one of them it is, save to cast, and you can keep using that person. So just for fun, since most of the pictures I post about this on Reddit and various forums are all randomly generated at the moment that a few moments before I post them, I just want to show you me do it here now. So I'll do it totally random. I kind of want it to generate more than 2 people. There we go. We got 3 people. I'm not even going to look at the scene. I'm not going to look at their outfits. I'm just going to randomly post, and we'll generate it, and then we'll sign off. I know this has been a bit long, um, but hopefully you have a better understanding of how all this works. And again, like I said, while we're waiting for that to generate, again, when it comes down to the scenes, this part is just to make it easy. But there's a lot of options that you can just hand jam in with the staging, creating people and creating what they're doing, and all of that generates prompt material in the prompt section. So you don't, much like you can hand create the characters up here, you can hand create the scenes down here. The random characters and the pre-made scenes are there just for simplicity's sake. If you're just doing character studies and character tests, it's easier just to keep this constant and keep adding and changing the character uh, a bit at a time until you get the character you want. Um, See, I told you the tall people work. Um, I don't think she understands how selfies work, but she's magnificent, so she's got that going for her. And as you see here, these 2 people, I'm not sure who was used as reference here, but if you went back, whoever essentially is normal sized, who's like within the 5 to 6 foot tall range, is the one that was used as the primary. Um, anyway, so if I wanted, what is her name? She's clearly a beast. Stag. Her name is Stag. So if I say save cast Stag to cast, so he's 2 meters tall and he's 2.1 meters tall. All right, so that didn't actually come out that close because that is not zero point 0.1 meters difference, I don't think. But anyway, they're both fabulous too. So we'll save Finn to cast and we'll save Noah to cast. And they are there to be reused. If I thought you were interested in going on further, I would go ahead and create a brand new scene and import them and show you how it works. But I think you've seen enough for now. Go log into the site. The link will be in the description. Uh, Go and play around with it. If you have a ChatGPT account, you can generate images one at a time pretty regularly without being charged any extra money. Um, but you can also use any tool, any image you have. Some of the let me say this before you go rushing off. If you're using a local prompt, there's a lot of local image generators that are old image generators that have a lot of weaknesses that don't read my code the way that it's intended. Um, Essentially, a lot of image generators will take every single carriage return as a request for a new picture. So if you were to enter my code into one of those image generators, it would try to generate however many pictures there are, um, paragraphs, but most of them, since they're just blocking and direction, will fail. And generally only the person image will create. So you'll create one image, and it'll just be a portrait of the person. Um, but basically, if you're using ChatGPT or Grok Imagine 2.0, those will come out pretty well. Nano Banana is okay. It could be a great image generator, but right now I'm finding it doesn't work so great with my tool. But you're free to practice with it if you have and see how it goes. Um, and give me feedback. Let me know. Anyway, that's my tool. I think it's fun. You can play around with it, just randomly generating stuff like this magnificent scene if you want. Otherwise, you can create your own personal characters, and you don't even have. I mean, you create the personal character, and you don't even have to save it in my tool. You can copy that out and put it into a text file that you use for whatever it is you're doing, whatever you're using AI art to generate, and it's always there for you to just use over and over again. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Um, I'll come back with when I have anything new to show. I do have some stuff that's in the works. I have some uh, uh, staging additions that I'm going to be making over the next week or so, new combat sequences and things like that, so you can get more in-depth pictures. But until then, you can get some pretty interesting pictures out of this, and it's fun. So catch you later. Bye.